So, hello everyone again. This is Hekate in the Chaldean Oracle and PGM part 2. So today we're going to talk more about practice. And basically it's going to be about what we can do to translate into real practice, modern practice, basically today. What is written in ancient texts like the PGM, the Greek magical papyri, and the Chaldean oracles, because we already did part 1 that was really about, the cosmology, the theology, the philosophy behind all of that. So what we can do with those texts today, and we will keep this call again very flexible. So I'm sharing with you some slides, but during the slide, we're going to talk about, some spells. So if you have the Greek magical papyri book, you can grab it. Otherwise, I'm going to read some parts here and there to give you an idea. And I will provide you also on the Covenant of Hekate forum a PDF in the next days. So you can actually read some spells with some notes and you can do them on your own. Problem is, if you have a little experience with the PGM, you already realize that we cannot really do a spell now together, because the preparation usually is extremely long. The material you need to collect is very complex, and basically it's impossible. And the same goes for the meditation about the Chaldean oracles, because that is more about theurgy and it's practice you need to do on yourself. So you need to be really focused for that to be effective. And with the connection that, can you hear me? No, I'm not working. You froze, etc. It's not really a good condition. So again, you're going to receive everything. But if you have questions, this is the right moment, because it's not just me here that I'm used to work with those texts. There are other key bearers today, so let's make the most of that. So now let me see, how can I share the screen so we can. Okay. Now you should be able to see my screen. Just raise your hand, your thumb, see if you can see that. That's perfect. So, okay, today, what kind of magic we are talking about? Again, I already told you last time, so very briefly, we have two options, basically. The Chaldean Oracles giving us more about information about theurgy. So a magic, you work on yourself to elevate yourself to the gods level. Basically, the idea is to create what I like to call a vertical magic. So the aims of the magic is to go up and to climb the ladder that go from the material world all the way to the ethereal world. So it's a magic you do on yourself, purification and a lot of work. And then we have the PGM, so the second books here, that it's more about really horizontal magic. Basically, you are acting on the reality of the material world because you want to have something specific, or you want to achieve something specific. So since we are in the Covenant of Hekate, what we need to keep in mind is that usually with the Chaldean oracles, we are working with the emanation of Hekate, that are the Uranian one, Hekate Sotera, so the savior, really the epithet of Hekate that send us really to the sky, to the star, to the that kind of realm. While in the PGM, we're working with Hekate in the Chthonian world, let's say so. So the queen of the mistress of the dead, the queen of all the entities, may then be daemoness, etc. But as you can see, as I mentioned, the situation is really blurred. It's not so easy to distinguish the two different approaches, and this is why I'm putting them together. I know it may seem very difficult and not so easy, because again, you are comparing a kind of magic that is high magic and one that was always considered kind of low magic, because you want something practical together. But actually, there is a relationship between the two texts, because if you read carefully the two texts, you're going to see that there are some formulas that are basically the same, and the technique and sometimes also the tools used, they are exactly the same, just used in different context. But what you can read in one book, you can apply also to the other, and vice versa. This is why I'm putting the two of them together. And very important disclaimer, this is my point of view. What I'm telling you now is not written in the stone. So what I really suggest people to do, approaching the PGM especially, is to do their homework and to do the practice. Because some spells, the adaptation I'm doing, the changing I'm doing to the spell may work for me. They may not work for you, or other practitioner may have different ideas. The ancient magoi, the ancient practitioners, they died, sadly. They brought all their real tradition with them, and we cannot rebuild all of that. We have some hint, we have some information, but we do not have everything. So we need to really fill in the gap. And everyone, in my opinion, talking about these two texts, is really welcome to try them out and see what is working for yourself, basically. And another very important thing to keep in mind, since we are talking really about magic, the recipe of the spell, of the incantation, may be the same for everyone, like, the recipe for a cake. Then everyone has a different oven. My energy may work in a slightly different way from yours. So again, you need to really use them. It's not just about the mental speculation. The speculation may translate then into practice. Otherwise, there's no point. So what you need to do when you have the books with you is don't be scared, because I know that if you don't have the papyri with you, I'm just trying to share, I don't know if you can see it, if it's a good view, but basically you can see that the text, it's written in a strange way. There are a lot of strange different words. It may be intimidating at the beginning, because you start reading, you maybe think it's a collection of spells you can use immediately. It's not. So in both cases, going from the oracles or the Greek magical papyri, I know that you can find a lot of material online. Try to save a little money to get yourself a nice book with a recent translation, because that is very important. And then translate everything into English or your own language, because understanding what the text is saying to you in a very practical way is important. Then if you want to go back to the very elegant, poetic, sound of the spell, fine. But first of all, try to understand what is written, because that is very, very important. And take the time to read it carefully and read the footnotes, if there are, because sometimes you can find a lot of very important information even down there. So they are annoying, it's take maybe a lot of time, but just do it. And then also what you can do, if you never ever use a spell from the PGM, you can search also online to see what other practitioner did. Just do a little selection, just try to figure out people who are famous, that you know them, you read maybe their books, just go for people you can rely on, basically. But then try to figure out the spells on your own. So you can read other interpretation, what other people are doing, but again, just do the homework. Just don't follow what other people are telling you immediately. Not even me. I mean, just try really to see what the text is telling you, and trust your intuition, because it's also about your intuition and your strength. Basically, if you find a spell that is really working with fire and the emeline fires, and you are not really a good match, just don't use that as a first time. You work on yourself first, and then you give it a try. So be also honest with yourself. There's no one telling you, oh, you should do that spell or the other one. Just try to pick something that is really speaking to you and something that you can feel in your bones, basically. And also, this is very important, and I'm showing you it immediately in a very practical way. read between the lines. At the beginning, it may be difficult because you may see, reading the text, especially, for example, the magical papyri, you have the title of the spells, you have a list at the beginning of the books, or spell for love, for knowledge, divination, dreams. But sometimes if you read the same spell at the end, you can find that the same spell can be used for other things, or reading in between the lines, you can understand that the same spell may be used also in a different context. So don't just stop at the title and, what is already written for you. Just try to understand everything. And talking about the Chaldean Oracles, since we talked a lot about them last time, and we also someone actually asked me how you can use them in a practical way. There are practical information inside the oracles, like in all the ancient books. Maybe you are reading, I don't know, the Odyssey or the Iliad. There are sometimes description of rituals. There are description of necromancy. And if you pay attention to those descriptions, you get some very important information. And talking about the Chaldean oracles, we're starting with that so we can leave a lot of time then the Greek magical papyri. In the oracle, you can find really a sort of guide to the ritual, because there are some fragments that are giving you very specific information, something like things you have to do. So, for example, we know for sure that in fragments 131, you should sing a paean, which is an hymn. So we can think that it's a very good way to start a ritual, singing an hymn, maybe doing an invocation. Keeping the silence is about, you are not spreading, the knowledge around. This was probably about initiation. But I think it's also important talking about magic and the energy, not to speak too much about what you are doing with other people. Because once you cast a spell and you start talking and chatting about it to everyone, you are kind of disrupting. This is my opinion. I noticed that if you keep silence, usually you give the time to the spell to work properly, and you are not dispersing the energy or putting your mouth into something that should be closed. You did it, it's sealed, that's done. Then you have a lot of information about the purification. And in the Chaldean oracles, like in all the Greek texts, purification before the ritual is capital. And the best way is seawater. If you don't live near the sea, like me, sadly, salted water will do. If you are lucky enough, like someone else that is smiling right now, to live near the sea, just bring some water, or if you really have the chance, you can just dive into the ocean, into the sea, and then you can perform your spell, your ritual, and that is clearly written. So you can see that you can find information in there. In the Chaldean oracles, again, this is about theurgy, so it's more work on yourself. There are also very important information about the direction. So both texts, this is very important, they work with entities and spirit. It's not just a magic that you do on your own. You're usually invocating or evocating spirits. In this case, in the Chaldean oracles, the indication is clear. You need to work with the spirit, with the entities, use the word you prefer, with the daimones, that are coming from the upper realms. So you need to focus on entities coming from, the ethereal realms, at least the sublunar region. I don't know if you remember, if you've seen, again, the class with the Chaldean oracles, you should keep in mind, the cosmology, and you try to go up. Basically, the idea is to go to the gods level. So you're not digging down in the chthonic realm, underground, stay down there, you go up. And that is also clearly stated. And that is also very important, like avoid the evil daimones. It's not just because they are evil like Christian point of view. it's more about the architectonic, and they are taking you to work on the material world. And that is not what you need to do when you are doing theurgy. It doesn't mean that you cannot do the two different kind of magic, maybe not at the same time. Actually, to be honest with you, theurgical work should not be mixed with, Goetheia and the low magic. But since, well, I found myself a little excuse, because since Hekate is also the goddess of magic and witchcraft, I think that I'm kind of excused. But then if you're talking with other people and you say that you are mixing theurgy and, witchcraft, they may not be so, understanding. So just keep that in mind. Just give me a second. Someone is coming in. And obviously, since I'm sharing the screen, I cannot do that. So let me see if I can do this. Sorry, guys. But this computer is always creating some problem. So now it should be fixed. So again, theurgy and magic, not always a good mix. So now let me bring back the presentation. Okay. And share the screen again. Voila. Here we are. And again, here we can see that again, you have the direction you need to do. You need to work with the higher spirit. Talking about what you need to do, there are always in the Chaldean Oracles some specific sentences that may be interpreted as just, I don't know, something allegorical, like the work with fire. But then you read the work with fire must be done with the priest. So it's not something that is just allegorical, that is just a symbol. It's something very practical. Probably in this kind of magic, in the theurgic magic, if you are interested into that, there were the two different things. So you had the act that you had to do. So again, magical practice. And also, obviously, the meditation, the breath work, and the spells, and the word, the Onomata Barbara, so this barbarous name we already mentioned last time, that you should really pronounce. And we're going to see them, especially with the PGM. And then in the oracles, you have especially the idea that you need to get the divine epiphany. So after all the work you are doing, the idea is that you really need to connect with the divinity. That is the point. You have Hekate to meet, or Ilias, or other gods. The point is that you're working on yourself to go up there. And probably they were working with meditation, not really path working as we do today, but probably something very similar. The point is, if you want to follow this example, you shouldn't do the usual, in my experience, you shouldn't do the usual guided meditation where you have a lot of time to think. It should be a meditation that is very fast, very quick, that give you just flashes of images. And you need really to try to avoid your mind to fill in the gap. So to give you an example, in the Chaldean Oracles, there are 3 fragments where you have the epiphany of Hekate, or the formless fire, because I'm really sure that that is an epiphany of Hekate, and we can discuss about that, but it's really that. And it's very quick. You can read everywhere that you have flashes of images that the saints, or better the daimones, they arrive one after the other in a very fast way, because otherwise your mind is filling in the gap. So you need to block out your own imagination to just focus on what is coming from above, basically. it's a difficult topic. If you have any question about that, just feel free to ask and interrupt me, because it may be quite, surprising, because we are usually, doing path working, giving ourselves a lot of time to create the space, and then you meditate and you visualize. In this case, you really need to avoid that. Basic practice. So, Chaldean Oracles, we're done, because basically we have a lot of fragments in there. So again, we can capture something, not everything. But what is interesting to do is to compare with the PGM. So again, what you are supposed to do, the basic practice before the spell. In both, so the oracles and the PGM, we have something that is absolutely important, that is the purification. In the Chaldean Oracles, I already told you about the seed water. So before practicing, like, any ritual, you really need to arrive pure. So take your ritual bath. And sadly, especially on the PGM, we have a lot of information about the abstinence, or the needs to keep yourself pure. Point is that you can read many of the spells telling you after keeping yourself pure for 7 days, after fasting for 3 days. Fasting probably back then was daytime, so the hour during the day. So fasting for 3 days, you were not starving probably for 3 full days or 7 days. It was more like the Ramadan for Islamic people. So again, why this is very important, and I recommend you to do that, at least if not really fasting, at least just a little food, very light, because it's really about focus and sharpness. Even today, we know, with the new theory about intermittent fasting, etc., that sometimes our brain work actually better if your stomach is not, collecting all the blood because you overeat or you drink too much. That is not helpful if you need to focus your mind on one goal. And in magic, you are supposed to do that. So that is very, very important. And then, and I'm talking also about my own experience, is also about a little bit of willpower. I mean, how can you bring the Moira on your side if you cannot avoid to eat dinner for 1 day? I mean, just try to be honest with you. You are doing some work. You want to use this kind of ancient magic that is based also on this kind of old-fashioned things. We are following them. I am doing that, at least. So do your purification. And it's very also important in theurgy. Purification is not just about fasting, it's also purifying the mind. So it's a bit maybe, annoying for someone, but study philosophy is important, because philosophy is purification of the mind. So if you are really up for theurgy, give philosophy a try. Then you're not obliged, but usually it helps. It helps a lot. Second point, after purification, keep in mind the direction. So also going up, so trying to work, talking about the Chaldean oracles with the daimones, with these entities, at least from the ethereal realm, the highest possible. And also talking about the Greek magical papyri, what is interesting to see is that since you are working with entities, the higher is the entity you are calling, the better it is. I mean, on a ladder of different entities, it's very hierarchical. It's very complex how they put all the different daimones and the gods and the demigods one after the other, creating this sort of hierarchy that is very complex. But basically, the higher you go, the better it is. So keep that in mind when you're reading a spell that is maybe making you a list of different gods or giving you several names. Try to understand who they are and where they are, so you have an idea. Because if you just read all of them and you said, well, I don't understand, it's getting for you more difficult. So just try to understand who you are talking to. That is very important. And also in the PGM, but we're going to talk about that later on, there is this idea of wearing the God face or assuming the God form. So basically, you are not just calling upon the gods or the entities, you are becoming one during the spell. So again, this has also something to do to the hierarchy, because pretending or assuming the form of a higher god, you can command the entities underneath you. That is the idea. And it's something that should become quite familiar with you, because I know it's kind of difficult, especially for people who come from a Christian, background, to do something like that. Like, oh, it's blasphemous because I'm wearing a god mask. I'm stepping really into the power of the gods. That is normal. This is ancient magic. And you're going to see that that's not all. You're doing something worth, but we keep it later on. So little suspense. But basically, again, just think about the point. And talking about this, one of the most the easiest example I can give you about, again, this idea of becoming a god is in the headless ritual. I don't know if you have the magical papyri with you, but I'm sending you the text in the PDF. Basically, this is a very famous spell. It's probably an exorcism. But what is interesting is that at the beginning, you are invoking the Headless One. At the end of it, you are really stating, I am the Headless One. So you can see that you are really wearing the power of the god. Then also something very important about the timing is planetary magic. In the Greek magical papyri, choosing the right moment to perform a spell is capital. It's even more important than the direction. Today, when we speak about direction, one usually thinks about the cardinal points, where you are facing, what you are doing. There are information about, where you're supposed to be facing during a spell, what you are doing during it, if you need to turn around or not. But it's not as important as choosing the right time. There are plenty of information in every single spell about it should be done at the sunrise, at sunset, during the night, during a specific period. So without stressing you too much with this idea of the planetary magic, like I need to pick the right day, the right hour, the right position of all the stars, the moon, etc. Just pay a little attention. Very easy example. You want to do something about, I don't know, wealth and money. Pick a Thursday and Jupiter. That may be a good idea. If you're doing something about love, pick Friday and Venus. Just try to connect what you are doing at least with the day of the week. Try to do that, because in that way it's easier that the spell is working. Basically, you are putting everything on your side. Every possible thing you can do, you are doing that. Many spells, actually, you're going to see that they are in the morning, like before sunrise, during sunrise, and the spell is really telling you when the sun, you can see half of the sun, when the sun is completely high, because ancient people didn't have watches, obviously. So keep that in mind and adapt that. But basically, in my experience, if a spell is supposed to be done at night, doing it during night. Don't do it right first things in the morning. Try to follow what you can follow. Talking about the general preparation. Protection is also quite important, because if I'm releasing a video about doing magic without talking about protection, I think I'm going to have a huge backlash from everyone, because it's dangerous, especially because you are working, sorry, with the spirit and the entities. It is true that in the both Chaldean Oracles and the PGM, we are dealing with the universe that is completely full of entities. They are everywhere. They are above us, beneath us, around us. They have the most different tasks to do, and not all of them are friendly. So it is important, obviously, to protect your space and also to protect yourself without stressing too much. What I mean is simple. You should learn at least one banishing exorcism spell. I'm giving you the headless one that works perfectly. And then you don't need to do anything more than usual. You clean your space, you clean yourself, you prepare yourself a phylactery. 90% of these spells that are calling upon what is considered to be a difficult or dangerous entities, they give you at the end of the spell the little phylactery, which is a sort of amulet that is supposed to be worn during the spell. So just to prepare it in advance. PGM, they are not spell you can do like, oh, today I'm feeling like I'm doing one. No, you need to prepare. So you read it, you read also the protection, you bring it, you wear it. And then, to be honest with you, usually a spell that's not working, it doesn't work, point. Nothing bad is going to happen to you. I don't want to scare anyone, absolutely. Simply you do the spell and it fails. I failed a lot of them, trust me. And if you talk to practitioners and they are telling you, oh, I never failed, something strange is happening there. So don't really believe that it's impossible that spells, especially like this, they fail. They do fail. And usually nothing bad happens. But just, normal practice. You clean your spirits, you clean yourself. You can do a banishing here and there, not too much, especially if you want to work with the entities. This is a very important side note. Unfortunately, Diana is not here, but we've talked a lot about that. And if you're working with the entities and you live in Fort Knox because you protect every single wall of your house, entities, well, they cannot come in. So just keep it in mind that you need to have a little balance there. So a little protection when needed. Otherwise, be ready to deal with some entities during the spells. And important information, in my opinion, cast simply your circle. I'm not telling you how to do that because we are all from different tradition. But the circle, in my opinion, dealing with the PGM must be casted. It's very easy. It takes you like 3 minutes according to your tradition. And it's not just about protection, it's also creating, the microcosm is important also for the symbols. So we are talking a little bit again about symbols, because symbols and what you are doing with the items is important, because these symbols, the items you use during magic, they are token of higher power. So if you create your little circle and your microcosm, this is working also as a launching platform. You are recreating the macrocosm. So do that. And it's also very important in this moment to keep it in mind, in my opinion, that PGM and this kind of magic must be integrated in your own practice. Like, again, we do have a lot of holes here and there. We have fragments. We do not have all the practice. What we cannot know, we can actually adapt. We know in the PGM that the practitioner was using a circle. He simply doesn't write it down every time. Because the PGM today, we say, oh, it's a grimoire. It was probably not really a complete grimoire. It was like a collection of spells, like your notes, like my notes that usually look like this, not completely unorganized, but he was taking notes. Sometimes here and there you can read, and here do the usual, and I'm quoting, do the usual. The usual what? Who knows? But clearly, if he was doing every time the same thing at a certain point, he was not going to write it down. Think about your own grimoire. You're not writing down every time how you open the circle or how you close it. That is taken for granted. That is your own practice. Then you wrote down maybe the spell, the invocation, the detail that you do not know. Things you know them. So just integrate the magic of the PGM in your own practice. I usually, personal practice, do my own circle. Sometimes, if I'm just working with a spell that is Hekate related, I do my own invocation to Hekate before really starting the ritual. And then, when I'm ready, when I prepared everything, when my invocation is done, then I perform the spell. Like it's a part of, it becomes part of a bigger ritual. It's just a part of that. It's not just, oh, I'm doing that, and that's all. It's a bit more complex. And very important, learn to let the Christian point of view go out of the way. Because ancient magic, I already told you, assuming the God form, you are really identifying yourself with the deity, and that is perfectly fine. You are supposed to do that, and you are really supposed to believe it. I mean, if you are stepping into magic thinking, oh, I'm saying that, but it's not working, it's not going to work. I mean, it is a part of the ritual, and you really need to believe that you are becoming that deity. It's not like, oh, it's just an allegory, it's a symbol. It is a symbol, but you must do it. If it helps you, you can use maybe a mask. Like you can wear a mask in that moment. You pick it up, you say, oh, I am this God. And so you are putting on your face a mask. It's not required usually by the spells, but you can do that. I see that there is a question. Joe, you raise your hand.
Yes, because I am very, I do not want to interrupt you. But yes, a lot of people have this preconception that is very scary to take on the face of the goddess or do this or threaten the goddess or whatever. And they would say, oh, I will never threaten the gods. I will never threaten the goddess. Okay, but again, this is a very particular context in a very particular part of the world in a very particular time. Okay, so the magic, we have to learn to separate devotion and worship from magic. Because this, while this is religious magic, because you're speaking about deities and theurgy up until a point, this is a bit like folk magic, right? So if somebody here has some little background of maybe Appalachian spells in the US or African religious traditions or Latin American context of folk Catholicism, you will see that people uses the saints or uses gods, orishas, whatever, into practice to do certain things. It is not, you're not really getting into trouble for threatening the gods. This is just how this magic was done. This is just how it's practiced. It's part of the, how do you say, the contract. So do not be afraid of doing the spell. Of course, you need to adapt because there's a lot of cat drowning in this book, but you do need to be bold with your magic in that regard. I'm going to put my hand down.
Thank you. No, but you're right, because sometimes I really, talk a lot, but that is very important to stress out that you need to be bold, really. In this kind of magic is really stepping into your power. Like you do have a power. And of course, it sounds like, you know, a stupid point because, okay, of course, I'm protecting myself. I'm telling you that you can do that. But you do have this power because you gain it. And you gain it thanks to the gods. Otherwise, there's no point. And if you get this power and you are not going to use it because you feel like, oh, I'm doing something wrong, it's not correct, it's not going to work. And there's nothing wrong in doing that because the point is being raised, many of us, in a Catholic or at least Christian country, this sounds really very bad. Like I'm compelling the God to do something. But if you read carefully also in the cosmology of the oracles, the tokens we are using, they were shared by the gods willingly. The gods were not compelled to share them. They choose to, and Hekate is the one who sent down the tokens. So maybe she's not expecting everyone to use them, but I'm pretty sure that if the gods allowed this to happen, there's nothing wrong. Otherwise, it was probably just impossible to do that. This is also another way to read into this, because now we are talking really about threatening the gods. It's very common. Like you are really telling the gods, oh, if you do not do this for me, I will not, I don't know, give you the offerings. You are threatening basically everything. There is also a nice little spell that is about picking up plants, and you are threatening even the plants, telling you are not growing again because, it's the number, it's the picking up the plants, it's PGM4, line 286 to 95, is a very short spell. And you're really threatening the plants that if they are not doing their job, they're gonna die in the draft with no water forever, no flowering and blooming anymore. That is normal. Because in this kind of magic, basically, there is a sort of contract between you and the gods slash the plant slash everything else. And you are doing your side, so you are expecting the other part to do its job. So you are offering the famous drone cat, because there are plenty of they use a lot of a nice word to describe that. You deify animals.
You deify the cat.
Yes, you deify when you read, and then after deifying the cat or the owl or the eagle, and it means that you are killing the poor animal in a strange way. Well, you know, you've done that, so you expect the other side to do their job. So you're telling them basically, if you don't do that, it's going to end bad. I'm not giving you the offerings. You will be forgotten by all the men forever. No one will pray to you anymore. And sometimes when you assume the god form, you are also threatening lesser gods. So you are pretending to be, I don't know, the top god of the chain, and you're telling all the other gods or entities, since I am this one, you are going to obey me. So it's a very strange kind of system for us. It's very difficult to step into this kind of mentality, but
Because
you really need to try.
Sorry, you kind of think that you're threatening because you are, or people will tend to think that, oh, you think you're more powerful than a god and you're going to threaten. It's not about that. It's about doing your magic in the name of. If you are a Hecatean witch, you are acting on the name of Hekate to perform your magic. So you will assume the face of because you're working for her through your magic because you're doing it in the name of. Even if it's a material thing for you because you are her devotee or her priestess or her witch, it is something that you are going to achieve in her name.
Exactly. That is also very important to keep in mind. That is something you really need to learn to do, in my opinion. You really need to step. It's also a way to step out of our comfort zone, because obviously it's a very difficult. I think that it was the more difficult things for me to do. This is why I'm recommending, the idea of the mask Or you can sometimes use just, if you use any sort of ritual makeup, you can write also on yourself the name of the god. If you don't have the mask, you don't. Now I'm telling you, I'll wear the mask. It seems also reading the text, you have the idea that you need a lot of different things, a lot of material, a lot of animals. It's not. We're going to talk about that. We can change the detail. We can change the material required. We just need a little, understanding of the text and a little imagination. But again, if you feel really uncomfortable in doing, the god form at the beginning, using a mask or the ritual makeup with the inscription, it really may help you, because it's like you're really putting on another face. It's not you. And that is the concept. You are really stepping into the power of that deity. And that is, it's the base of this kind of magic. If you are not really ready to do that, it's really difficult for you to work with the PGM, because all the different spells, basically all of them, they end up saying, oh, I am the god, or I'm threatening the god, or I am compelling the god to do something. And this idea of compulsion, we have it also in the Chaldean Oracles, because there is a fragment that we have the impression where Hekate herself, it's not that happy to be brought down from heaven to talk with people. But the point is, keep it also in mind that the different realms, they are not supposed to communicate in a direct way. And every epiphany of the gods is a disruption for the natural order. Of course, it cannot happen on a daily basis. That's I think it's definitely obvious. But that is part of the ritual. That is part of the ancient magic. So if you really want to work with this kind of magic, it's something you really need to be acquainted of. Just get used to it. Just try and see how it sits with you. Fortunately, that part, it's not something you can change. Otherwise, the nature of the spell is completely changed. And this idea of compulsion, again, it's very difficult. Another thing that is very difficult is the pronunciation of the word. Because in the Greek magical papyri, and that is something very, 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 very important to keep in mind, we have a lot of onomata barbara. That is a very, complex word to describe word that cannot be translated at all. And they appear as a string of usually vowels. So let me find one with a lot of them. So I'm trying to show it to you. So let me know if you can see it. For example, page 140. This is just a list of, the zodiac sign and the decans. I don't know if you can read this list of name. And you have the zodiac sign on one side, and on the opposite side, you have these strange names. All the strange names, you are not supposed to translate them. Basically, you're going to see in the PDF, if you don't have the Greek magical papyri text right now, you're going to find them in the PDF I'm sharing. But you have all these letters creating strange name with a lot of vowels, so they may be difficult to pronounce, that must stay as they are. You are not supposed to translate them. You are not even supposed to understand them. They are really, literally speaking, the magic word. So basically, every text, including the Chaldean Oracles, they give us a very strict information. You do not change the magic word, because they are related, especially without getting into the detail of the history. Otherwise, we're not going to survive again. But basically, you have a lot of vowels, and the vibration of the vowels, they were related to the planets, 7 planets back in the days, 7 vowels. So it's with the vibration that you are putting everything in motion, and you are calling the god. This is at least my understanding. So these vowels, they must be pronounced out loud. So you're not screaming the magic name around, don't worry. You can just try to speak up, speak loud when you're doing that. I know that maybe you are alone or you think, but maybe my neighbor is going to hear me. You're not screaming around, but just speak them. Because if you do this, it's not working. You need to have the vibration of the voice. It's very important. And some of them, and I'm going to read a fragment again later on, they were very strange sound. Like, I don't know, they really sounded like animal voices, like when you have a lot of e, or strong sound, like oh, and you have a lot of aspiration. You are supposed to do them. I know that maybe at the beginning, even if you are alone, you may feel a little, allow me to tell you, stupid, because you are trying. Just do that and do the homework. Like when you have a spell and it's very long and there are a lot of strange words, just pronounce them before the spell. Nothing is going to happen. It's not like, oh, I'm speaking them out loud, so the spirit is appearing, I'm evocating I don't know who. It's not going to happen, don't worry. Just try them. Sadly, talking about the pronunciation, we have some notes. If you have the PGM, is page 101. There is a nice spell, it's PGM 153, where we have some note on the pronunciation. Just to give you an example, the A, that is the A, it should be pronounced with an open mouth, undulating like a wave. So it should have been something like it's just the idea of the wave. Then you have the O succinctly as a breathed threat. Oh, well, I'm Italian, so it's very easy for me. But, just go for that. Just believe in that. Oh, exactly. You got it. Good job.
Please, you need the hand.
Exactly. I think it's going to work also with the gods and the deity, the hand. It's a new magical gesture and position. Then you have the Iao. That this is quite peculiar because it's Iao to earth, to air and heaven. Like E is going down, A is going, or better, A is going air, and O is going up to heaven. Like you're trying to do with your voice something like that, the best you can, because I do understand that maybe for Italian Spanish speaker it's a bit easier. Other people may have some difficulties with the vowels. Just do your best. I mean, it's perfection is out of reach. But do your homework. Like you see the text, just try it out, rehearse the magic word, and do whatever you can. So try to pay attention to that. And also something that is very important in that moment, do not try to understand what deity is hidden behind. Some magical name, they are already associated with some gods, like the secret name, for example, for Hekate is usually Actiophis, or she's also related to Ereshkigal, Nebuchadnezzar. They are names that we often find related to Hekate, so we can kind of recognize her. Others, they're just string of vowels. Do not try to understand, oh, that might be that god or the other one. Just go with the vowels. It's not something you really need to understand. And it's clear because even the practitioner who collected the Greek magical papyri has no idea. It's pretty clear. And he is also writing down the two different E sound. They're identical because he couldn't understand the difference between them. So it was something different and difficult even back then. So just don't break your mind thinking, oh, this EO maybe is the tetragrammaton, so maybe is the Abrahamic god, or no, it's maybe the one related to Isis and Osiris. Leave it behind. I mean, if you want to do that for your own curiosity, fine. But that is not necessary for the spell. I told you to understand everything. The information about what you need to do. The magic word, no need. Otherwise, you're spending your life without getting this information. So don't waste too much time on that. That's it, in my opinion. And the kind of magic you can find in the papyri is different. And basically, you can find spell for anything, for different needs. And again, don't stop at the description, because sometimes you have spells that are under like the name of love spell, and they are not. You can easily change them into theurgic spell or other kind of spell. In general, you have a lot of spell about divination, dream incubation, oniromancy, so the divination through the dream, that was very popular in the 4th century when the collection of the papyri was created. So then you have love, you have plenty of love spells. You have, money and business spells. You have compulsion, like you want someone to do something. You do have some defixiones, like, curse, not too much, not too many, sorry. You can really pick what you need. But again, sometime you can understand that a spell may be used or can be used for something else. Just do that. Again, this is a kind of magic that you really need to do. It's really craft. You're not just crafting just your material, you're just crafting everything, including the spell. I will share with you, it's already in the Patreon of the Sanctuary, open for everyone, but I'm going to share with you a spell that I created, mixing 2 different spells. Because when you get more experience, so you know how to handle them, and you feel that 2 spells, they have exactly the same ratio, the same system, they're working with the same kind of deity, and the goal is exactly the same, and one is maybe ruined, or it's something you are not willing to do, like drawing the poor cat, you can mix different spells. Not at the beginning, maybe, but it's something you can do. Just practice. You start with little spell, and you go on. And what is important is also know your strength. I wrote down know yourself in there, because you know what you are doing, you know what you are capable of, and you really need to know what you need, what you are willing to do, and how can you change what you are not willing to do. So that this is something very personal. How you adapt the spell is about your own practice, your own belief, and what you are comfortable in doing. Keeping in mind that God form and compulsion of the gods and the deity, it's something you need to learn to do. The rest, you can deal with that. And again, preparation, do everything in advance. Study the spell, prepare all the material, working on correspondences and substitution, like be creative. There is quite a famous spell that is about the self-initiation. Let me see if I can find it, because I just broken the, okay. I have so many different little labels that sometimes.
Are you looking for the bear charm?
Well, but there is the PGM 4, line 2651, that is an auto-initiation. It's a very beautiful, also kind of easy to replicate spell. Problem is that you need a rooster. You need to behead it and drink the blood, which is not something that today we are willing to do.
You were saying it's easy.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, that's simple. You just need a
literally.
rooster, drink the
Yeah.
blood, no problem.
Yeah, that's the only point that ruin this beautiful initiatory spell where you are at the border of the river at sunrise, looking at the sun, and you have this poor rooster with you, probably singing all happy because it's sunrise, and you need to do the killing and the blood drinking. How can you avoid that part? Use your imagination. My imagination told me, well, it's a white rooster. You can bring with you some white feathers that you use to decorate a loaf of bread that you create in the shape of a rooster. I mean, it doesn't need to be perfect. And then you leave the body of that rooster on the altar and you eat the head of that. That is a way you can change the spell without having the killing of the rooster and the blood drinking. And it's not obviously exactly the same. But again, this kind of magic cannot be performed, at least for me, as it was performed years, centuries, millennia ago. So you need to change the part that is not doable, because even if you are willing to kill the rooster, then drinking the blood of that, well, you can do that if you want.
You can
I'm not.
roast the chicken.
Exactly. You can roast the chicken if you want and then eat it. But you know, the point is that you should also leave the rooster there after drinking the blood, and then you need to take a bath. It's actually, without the killing part, it's a very beautiful spell. But again, the point is how you can reenact that spell, keeping the same idea of the rooster without dealing with the real animal. Especially because at least the rooster you can tell yourself, well, I can buy one. But some other animals like oak or exotic animals, that is really not possible. So instead of killing poor animal, the idea is to figure out you can use an image of the animal. You can write the name of the animal. You can change the life of the animal with another kind of sacrifice. If you are supposed to eat, drink the blood, for example, you can eat a part of the rooster that you have created. It's obviously a different things, but it's actually work. At least for me, it worked. So the idea really is for you to put your head in and your time in figuring out how you can change that part. Then the rooster is, I choose the bread because, well, you can make it with grains, something that the rooster eat. You can go with the fat. Maybe you can change that completely and say that instead of drinking and so the eating part, I'm doing another kind of purification using just the feathers and something else related to a rooster, but just work around the concept. Obviously now I picked this one because it's quite gory and it really gives you the idea why you cannot follow the spell as it is. But again, the way around, you just need to think about that. Another spell, for example, I publish it. It's about, a lamp that you can create. And obviously no one now, I mean, not us, not me, I don't live near the River Nile. I cannot pick that plant that is required, but I can go near a river to see I can find some branches. I can find something natural that I can use. So go with something that you can find in your place. In many spells, you have a description of ink that you can do to write, to prepare your phylactery, your amulet with the drawings and the letters. And sometimes we do not even know which kind of plant they were mentioning because we do not know what they are today. Just try to focus on the items you can recognize and go with them. They are talking about, I don't know, gold dust. It's a bit expensive. don't go with that, you can use graphite, you know, something metallic or something simple. Sometimes they say hieratic papyrus. That was the papyrus used, probably, this is just an hypothesis, used before to write something holy, like hymns or something. You buy simple, normal papyrus on Amazon. It's not expensive. And you use that to make it holy. You put it on your altar, you bless it, you leave it there for a night. And it's something you can easily use. You do not need, today, that is very important in my opinion to know. Today you have, it's not difficult online to find items to use if you want to perform this ritual. You do not really need to buy them and spend a lot of money, because you can buy really, you know, the papyrus, and then with a simple pen, you can write your, this is for the headless, right? But to give you an example, you're supposed to write down the letters of the secret name, this symbol, and you do it, and it's absolutely inexpensive. And it's also helping you to get really in the mood. We know that the ancient practitioner didn't care at all about, you know, art, because let me show you something. I don't know if you can see this beautiful, marvelous drawing, so elegant and well done. Well, this is it. It was not important. You don't need to spend time. I mean, if you are a great artist, you can probably put a bit more effort in your creation, but good luck with that, for example. I don't know if you can understand what it is. It took me quite a while, but it's like this. You don't need to be perfect. And also in the material, sometimes, again, be creative, because sometimes they mention you like lead sheet or metallic sheet. Don't ask me what they are, because I'm not experienced with fishing tools. But this is something absolutely inexpensive that is used apparently for fishing. You can find it on internet. It's lead. It's very soft. You can see that I can roll it up with my bare end, and it's very soft. So if you have a metallic point, any kind of point, even a pen that is not writing anymore, you can easily write on it. It's very easy. It's inexpensive, and you can use it to create some little charms, like the little amulets. It takes a little experience, because sometimes you have a lot of letters, so you need to get used to it, but it's not impossible. And then you have clay, where you can use to do, you know, your little cat figurine. So you can deify the clay figurine instead of the real cat. It's very easy. Just start small with simple, you know, spells that do not require a lot of things, and then you can expand and do your craft. I mean, don't waste a lot of money, because it's really not necessary, in my opinion. And the structure of the spell, basically, all the PG, once you have prepared everything, the structure of the spell is almost always the same. You have at the beginning a formula that is describing everything. So like, oh, this spell is gonna give you this. Then you have the first invocation. So the spell is asking you the spell is telling you how to do the invocation and the proper magical word to use. Then Tricky is telling you what you need to prepare. So basically, it's not in the perfect order, the spell, when you read it. You have the first part with the invocation, then they're going to tell you what you need to do, how to pronounce the word sometimes. And you have also at the end, in many cases, also the salutation, or, you know, you let the spirit at the end of this goes. If any one of you have experience with grimoire magic, sometimes it's really similar, because you have the invocation, then you have sometimes also the evocation, and then the release formula. So you're sending away the entities. At the end, sometimes you have also alternative procedures. The spell is really telling you, oh, if it's not working the first time, You can do it again, or you can change that, or the spell can be used for something else. You have also the offerings. In many cases, at the end, you get, oh, and you will offer to the deity this and that. Again, let's avoid to kill poor animal in this case. Many gods, you can recognize them because, again, these are not magical words. They are giving you the name of the gods. If you don't know them, you open a nice book, you read the mythology, you read the usual offerings, and I'm pretty sure that the gods will enjoy your normal offerings instead of body parts from animals or strange things. So feel free to do that. That is something that is very easy to do. And then again, try really to prepare everything in advance and to learn carefully what you need to do and when, right from the beginning. All of these we already talked about. And what is interesting to really know when you are more experienced is that all this kind of magic, even the crazy tool used in the PGM, they all work because all the system is somehow based on the sympathy. Like you are acting on something in the reality, on an item in the real material world. And this item is actually a token. And acting on that item allow you to act on the higher realm. So this idea, again, when we were talking about compulsion and, to control somehow the gods, this is working because, again, as I told you, the god shared with us these symbols. And the base is really the sympathy, these similarities that we can find between the item itself and the effect we want. The easiest way to explain it, you want rain, you use, I don't know, you put some water in a container, you make it rain, and you're asked to have rain. You are doing the same act in a small microcosm because you want to have the same in the macrocosm. This is the idea. And these symbols, these tokens, they may be, again, the object that you craft. They may be the magic word. It's very unclear what they are. But when you understand how they work, taking this kind of magic to the extreme, you can create your own symbol. Because basically, once you are experienced enough working with this kind of system, and you're going to see that there is a ratio behind, going on with time, you can create your own spell and your own symbol. Again, talking to the extreme version, you can step really into the creation process. Now, we are not talking about becoming gods, because that's not the point, but in a theologic way, if you perfection yourself so much, well, you are getting closer to the god than closer to the people. And even in the theological point of view, we use exactly the same system. And the best way I have to show you is the Yunks or strophalos. And is this little item. So I had a chance to discuss a lot what the strophalo is recently, because, well, it's a very long story, because many people know the strophalos as, let me show it to you, this labyrinth symbol that you can see on the left-hand side, the top side of the screen. This is the modern strophalos, like this is a symbol, which is an ancient one, Mycenaean labyrinth, I think, really ancient tradition that at the beginning was not related to Hekate, not at all. In the text that we have, the strophalos is a magical tools that belong to the kind, in my opinion, of the inks. Inges. You can see that strange word. We have strophalos in the title of this slide. You can see strophalos and or inks. The pronunciation, the Y, I don't know the name in English this evening. I'm too tired, but basically it's a sort of U sound, but very soft. So it's something like inks. And there were two kind of wheels, spinning wheels or spinning top, that you can see in the ancient archaeological finding I have in front of you right now. So you can see that probably in origin, inges, they were some sort of round items like this one. And they were spun on this rope. Mine is different now because I don't have the handle. I have another one in Italy with the handle, but in France, I have only this one. And it's a very simple tool I made myself. So again, no need to buy it for a crazy amount of money. It's just a disc of wood with two holes right in the center. And then you add a rope, a quite solid one in the middle. And you create two strings that are connected. And you use it during the invocation. Basically, in ancient time, I believe that moving the strophalos or the inks, the circular, almost spiraling movement of this item recreated in the microcosm the rotation of the sphere of the planet. So you are aligning yourself with the movement of the universe, and these allow you to call the god, like attract the god in this realm. So I tend to use it during the invocation. Another kind of inks that is quite difficult to work with, I'm trying. When I figure it out, I'm going to tell you how it was. But basically, it's the one with the birds you can see on the right side of the screen right now. Basically, from the description, inks is a word that is also related to the wryneck kind of bird. And we have from description that we have this sort of wheel used in the temple, like the one you have in front of you right now with this little bird. Probably at the beginning, they were real birds, so we do not know. And then they were also spun around. How? I didn't figure it out yet, but it's another kind of inks. So we'll see. But basically, we have a beautiful description of the strophalos, and the only one we have, a clear one, that is by Michael Psellus, and it's a commentary of the oracle, Chaldean Oracle, the oracle number 9, where you can see that the oracle tells you, act upon Hecate's strophalos. That's all. It's not telling us what the strophalos is. In the exegesis, so in the commentary, Michael is a writer who lived in the 11th century. So he's a Christian Byzantine man. He's telling us that he's a spinning top of Hekate, which is a golden sphere enclosing a sapphire at its center, spun around by means of a leather strap and inscribed on every part with letters of the alphabet. So it seems like it was like a sort of sphere. It's very difficult to understand. And then he really tell us what was the outcome of this spinning. And he is writing us by spinning it. They, the Chaldeans, invoke the gods. They used to call these instruments ingi, whether they are spherical, triangular, or any other shape. So basically, apparently, in ancient time, the strophalos was a kind of inks, probably used especially for Hekate. Maybe it was made like this. Maybe it was slightly different in the shape. We know for sure that apparently they were also in another kind of shape, like triangular. Point is, today, no one can afford to have a golden sphere enclosing a sapphire in the center to use it for your magic. So let's be down to earth. We use our inks created for Hekate, so I call it strophalos. You can add on it the name of the goddess, the epithet you want to use. You can personalize it, adding the symbols you want. If there is something very important, you are wanted. Sorry, my gosh, my English is terrible this evening. That you really want to obtain, you can create also a strophalos for that. And then to use it now, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna hit myself with this. But the point is, you turn it around. I'm just taking a little space because obviously otherwise it's not working until the string gets, let me show you, all, will up. And when the string, they are like this, it's possible to use it. Basically, now I'm doing it with my hand because I really like to use it with my hands like this because it allows me to control the how fast it's spinning. And it gives me a really complete control. You can see, you move your finger or the handle. If Sisi is still here, maybe if you can show us your strophalos is a good idea, but you can see it's really spinning around. And apparently in ancient time, when you were spinning it in your direction, you were invoking the gods. In the opposite direction, you were releasing them. Basically, to be honest, I use it when I'm doing the invocation at the beginning. So I'm invoking the goddess, the god. So I'm calling them. I'm still here. Can you see me?
You're still here.
Okay, sorry, because everything froze for me for a second. So I said, maybe I'm talking alone and I'm disconnected. But anyway, you use it when you are invoking the gods, really during the invocation. Also, when you are pronouncing the magical word, that is also a very good moment to do that. And thank you, Sisi, because I know that you have the nice one with the handles. And you can see Sisi now. You can see that it's much, much faster. And the movement like that is really more hypnotic, in my opinion. And I don't know if you want to tell us when you use it, Sisi.
Sorry, just trying to lower my hand.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So this is the one I made years ago. I've taken many of Jack Grail's classes on the Greek magical papyri and such. So this is the first, my husband and I made this one. It's quite hefty. And then a few years later, I painted some different symbols on the back of it. But yeah, it's just a piece of wood with holes drilled in it, and it makes a big, deep whirring sound. And you have to twirl it around towards yourself or away from yourself to wind up the strings to get it going. But if you can't make one, if you go to somewhere like Etsy or something, they have ones. I mean, you can type in the word strophalos or yinks or whirligig wheel, whirligig toy into like Etsy if you want to buy one. So this is one I bought just because it's a tiny little portable one, and it works just as well. I had to tighten up the strings a little more, but I don't know if you guys can hear it.
Yes, we can. I can hear you a little bit of the sound.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a whir. So, but anyway, that's two different ones, the little one and the big one there. But like you were saying, many different ways to make them. And I use them every Sunday for my devotionals to raise the energy and connect with the goddess and send everything out up into the cosmic soul. So
yes, that's a very good good example. Thank you, Sisi.
You're welcome.
Very helpful. And actually, you can see that how you use the strophalos is very easy. It's easy to find one. Sometimes now I check out in Europe, it's easier to find them at decent prices. A few years ago, they were all very expensive. But again, you can try to find one, or you can actually make one. It's not that difficult. I'm not skilled at all with art and tools. In Italy, we say that I have two left hand, not because it's nothing to do with the left hand path and so on, but usually because you do everything with the right one. The left one is the one you cannot use. And well, this is exactly what I mean. I'm not really skilled, but this is easy. And it's, I find it a very beautiful tool. Because in the context of the papyri, you can use it during the invocation and when you are, pronouncing the magical word, but also in the daily practice. You can easily use it when, for example, you are chanting, for example, an hymn, when you are meditating and maybe using as a mantra the name or the epithet of the goddess. It's a very versatile tool. And I took Jack Braille's classes too, and it's very interesting to use it. I find it very, very easy. And it can easily be used also when you are ready to release the energy. Like when you are really focusing on something and you are swirling the strophalos, charging really the energy of the room. And then when you feel you are ready, you can just start swirling it like you are releasing all the energy you collected into the world. And it's very useful. So I hope this make it clear how to use it. And it's a tool that I really recommend you to get familiar with. It's not, well, this one, it's mentioned in the oracles. It's not mentioned in the magical papyri. There are two spells where we can find the will of Hekate, and the title is really, the sentence is, I swear the will for you. I checked the Greek word, and it's not this. To my frustration, that was the rhombus. That is another tool that is like the bull roarer today. So it's like, it's not round, it's more like a thin, it's not elliptical, but basically it's like almost rectangular, but it's a thin like this, made in wood. And you're supposed to turn it around like this, and it makes a sound. And that was used especially for Dionysus. We know it because it appears several times with Dionysus. So it's in there, kind of. So you can go with your practice. Again, do your practice, try to use them, and I'm pretty sure you're gonna figure it out. That is also quite important. Then again, with the strophalos, you can go for, the magic, the theurgic operation, but everything is really about what you want to do. So now I'm taking down the presentation because I think we've been talking a lot again. So I hope that you find this information useful because I try to put them together in a nice way, but I'm not sure if everything was clear. And if you have any question about everything, this is a nice moment to ask. If you want to know something more, if you have a specific spell in mind, something you want to really to know, to ask. Minty.
Hi. I just have some doubt on how to use the strophalos, because you said it should turn towards myself, to invoke. But when I see this movement you were doing, looks like that it turns outside, then inside.
It's
I
kind of
invoke
difficult.
and dismiss Hekate every 2 seconds.
So no, I usually So in my opinion, you have two options. When it's spinning, you focus on the movement, so you pronounce the word when it's turning in the right direction. That is quite difficult, and it takes away a bit the moment. Like if you are looking for the hypnotic movement that take you into a slightly altered state of consciousness, and you need to pay attention to where it's spinning, it's not really helpful. So to solve the mystery, I decided to do this. When I tie, tie the string, first part, I turn it in my direction, and then I use it. So the rope is pulled in my direction always. Okay. And when I release at the end, because usually I have to do something in the middle, I'm not using it always during the whole ritual. I use it, then usually I do something else, and then I use it again. In that moment, I spin it in the opposite direction. Then again, if you want to keep the movement in one moment, you can really just, say the magic words when it's turning in the right direction. But then you do not have, I don't have this sort of trance experience, because you really need to focus on where the tool is spinning, in which direction. I don't know, Cici, if you have any insight about that, or you, Jill? No.
Yeah, sorry. No, I'm just really slow at touching things on my phone. You have to help me.
Don't worry.
It's like way over here. I just out of habit, really, is why when I go towards myself to wind up and tighten the strings. I guess when I'm winding up the wheel and I'm tightening the strings, I am thinking quite intently. I'm thinking about my intentions, right? I'm really thinking about my intentions, about what I'm about to do. And then when I start winding it, that's when I send those intentions out, and I'm kind of like the spinning of it is being forced out. And like you said, I don't pay attention to what way it's spinning when that's happening, because I am just getting in connection with the energy. I'm just connecting with the energy, and it's just going. My intentions are all in there, and that's all that, to me, that's the most important part. So I tried winding the thing, spinning it away from me, and I just kept hitting my chin. So I don't do that anymore. So yeah, sometimes it's just practical.
Yeah, that is actually the best experience. I mean, it happens to everyone, I think.
I did a demonstration like this in one of Sarita's, and I cracked myself right in the glasses. So I mean, sometimes you just adapt because of knocking yourself out.
Yeah, I know. Especially if you have the big one, that is also kind of heavy.
It's bad. Yeah,
magic is dangerous, guys. You cannot even imagine. But the point
is, hurts.
Can you use it also to, let's say, pull power and release it to the universe with the intention?
Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. I think that is the best way to use it, really, when you are collecting kind of the power. And like Cici said, you are really focusing on your intention, and you are really putting into that all your focus in the movement of tidying up the string. And when you feel ready, you can start spinning it. How you use it, it really depends also on what you are doing with this. If it's an invocation, if it's just the final part of the ritual, it's really a very useful tool. It's very simple. It's look like a toy, but I find it extremely, extremely effective. And I've been using it for quite a long time. Little important note: if you use natural material, string, it's breaking. So pay attention when it's like this. Now I really need, I don't know if you can see it, but it's really ruined. Change it, because this is the moment when it breaks on your face like this. You can see that now it's really ruined, and you have these spinning tools running around. So it's not dangerous, but you know, if you have something fragile around you, not a good idea. But yes, you can definitely use it to charge the energy.
Yeah, I'm going to make it. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I find it also very useful if you want to do really a focused meditation on a specific aspect of Hekate, like an epithet. If you keep spinning it while you are calling upon the name, the epithet you're using, I find it really useful. It really helps me to go into a sort of trance-like state of mind, something like that. It's very powerful in that way too. I think that the best way to understand how it works is really to use it. Joe?
If I may, you guys, a couple of considerations on the practicality of using the PGMs. It is very important to adapt. I mean, traditions are meant to be adapted to yourself. We don't live in the same times. We do not live in the same history. We don't live in the same places. So it is necessary to adapt. You do not have to follow the spells as they are, but you do need to be very sure that you understand it, okay? So when Sarah was talking about the rooster and I was joking around the chicken, you do need to understand that it is a sacrifice that you need to make, for example, or it's an offering that you need to make. So in this case was a sacrifice. So what are you willing to sacrifice to make the spell work? So these are considerations to be taken. So you have the structure of the spell. It is very important that you read it. It is very important that you understand what it wants to achieve when it asks you for something. Yeah.
No, I totally agree. That is, in my opinion, maybe I repeated myself also a lot of time, but it's really important to get that idea, because you really need to understand what is required. And also, as you just mentioned, something I didn't say, is what you are willing to sacrifice or what you're willing to do to get there. And also talking about some of the spells, in my opinion, it's really important also to understand who you are dealing with, talking about the deities, because sometimes you have very known deities, very famous one. Other time, they are less famous. So just spend a little time to understand who the spell is putting you in contact with. Because knowing the deity, knowing the mythology, knowing the history is helping you to understand the energy you are working with, and also to understand how you can adapt the spell if the spell is something that you want to really perform. Because at the end of the day, you do not need to do all the spells you have in the PGM. There is no point, really. I have tons of books. I'm not doing all the spells in that. There are kind of magic that I won't be interested. Maybe I wanted to read more, but I'm not willing to do that kind of magic. And the same applied to ancient tradition. In my opinion, the practitioner who collected all these spells, he was obviously a witch. He rose into this kind of practice. It didn't mean, in my opinion, that he actually did perform and celebrate all the different rituals. We have in the PGM a lot of different rituals, some of them, they are very similar. They basically are exactly the same spell with slightly different details. Others are maybe one in a kind, like the Mithra theurgy, that is a 4 pages long, very complex theurgic spell. It doesn't mean that it's in the PGM and you are interested in the PGM and so you are taking every single spell. Just try to figure out the spell that works for you. Maybe the one dealing with deities or entities, maybe they mention something and someone you already work with, because that is easier. Obviously, a spell is something that is, a recipe. According to someone's point of view, it's a recipe. You follow the recipe, you get the goal. That is true in part, because obviously there are other things that may influence your work. I told you, like the time you're picking, the offerings you are making, but you're also dealing with entities. And the entities, they're not just there for you waiting, So if you are not familiar with this system, just start working with spells, at least, putting you in contact with deities you already know, you already work with, because you know them and they know you. It's not just about you, it's also about them. So the communication, it's easier, because it's a spell at the end is also about communication. If you cannot communicate with the entities, it's not going to work. So start with someone you know, and then you can go on. And if there are energies you do not want to work with at the beginning or ever in your life, no one is obliging you today. No, you started the first spell, you're going to go all the way to the last one. There's no point, in my opinion. Then, obviously, going on, if you like this kind of magic, you feel like, oh, let me try to do that one. Okay, it's fine. But it's not something you are obliged to do. It's not like a religion. It's not your religious practice, and you know that you need to go through all the different steps to evolve. That's not the point. In my opinion, you just need to do your practice, understand the spell, work with the deities you feel you are connected to. And then if you want to expand, that is fine. But it's not an obligation. Especially, there are some dark, again, I don't want to scare anyone, but there are some dark spells in there. And there is no judgment from my side telling you, oh, you're not supposed to do this or that. But again, if that is asking you to sacrifice something, think about what you are willing to sacrifice in your life to get there.
Exactly.
Because that is something you should take into consideration. Because if you're putting your hand in something that is kind of the dark side, and you are not following the recipe because you're not willing to do the right sacrifice, ask clearly yourself. I'm not telling you don't do that. You are your own person, but think carefully what you are willing to sacrifice to get there. Because that is something you should keep in mind. And I'm not telling you you're going to have a backlash, not at all. But, well, if you're not sacrificing something, it's a contract. You are giving to have. And if they are giving you, they're getting something. I mean, it's a contract. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, I wonder if, talking about sacrifice, if we're choosing to substitute like killing an animal, that we would want to think about like what is the time and the effort and the care that I'm going to put into this substitute. Like if we were to make something from clay, for example, maybe not like a slapdash, like here it is, here it's a cat, I swear, but actually putting in the time and the thought and the care, and maybe even something that would hurt, to destroy because it's something that you put together, maybe something like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's a sacrifice. So it's something that it's not something that it has to hurt, but it's something that you need to care for. Okay, so I don't think anybody really wants to slice the throat of a rooster and then drink its blood. It's something that is going to cost you something. So that's about sacrifice. This is why I mean, when you have to really understand the spell, is it an offering or is it a sacrifice? Sorry. Is it I don't know, is it an invocation or an evocation? So you need to be very careful, because what Sara was telling you, or everybody, is that there are some spells that are very, let's say, dark. that you really need to make a purification for, that you really need to make a preparation for, and you really need to be very aware to whom you're contacting, like Sara was saying. Because once you contact, there's no way to backpedal. If they are already aware of you and that you're doing this, we're starting to getting to know each other. And maybe that's not something that you necessarily want. So you need to be very conscious to what you're willing to do. And if you're sacrificing, it has to be something meaningful for where if it's a clay thing, then you need to make sure that it's something that you care for. If it's a baking thing, it needs to take a toll on you, putting in the work. So it is something to consider when you're working with the PGM. Yeah.
Absolutely. And also the substitution. When you change something, you really need to understand why you are changing something with something else. Because obviously, if you are just crafting a tool and you say, okay, I don't have this kind of material, I'm using the other one, try always to find something that is similar, at least not just in the color, but let's think about, I don't know, you need, they mention something that is made in gold. Instead of having the lead sheet of metal, they are telling you need the silver one, super expensive. Okay, it's silver because you are dealing with the moon. So maybe you can find another material, or you can add the symbol of the moon on your paper so you can make the connection. Is silver because we are dealing with Mercury, and the color of the Mercury and the silver may be useful somehow? Just try to understand why they pick a specific material and what you can change, how you can change it in the best way. That is very important because it's not just about, I don't have this, so I'm using something that is completely different. Just try to make a meaningful change and put your brain in that. And again, it is exactly as Gio said, you really need to focus on the ritual. If you are changing a sacrifice, that is something that is not just for you, is also a sacrifice that you are making for a god. It's obvious that when you are preparing that, you cannot just leave it in the famous oven, go do your business, didn't care, and at the end you pretend that that's the best rooster I can provide you. It's not going to work. You really need to do it, not really in a ritual way, but almost. Like you really need to pay attention when you are crafting it. You need to put your intention when you are preparing it. You really need to prepare in a nice way, in a proper way. You're not cooking something you are using during the ritual with your dirty hand after you arrive with the bags of the, of the grocery. No, you stop, you clean yourself, you purify yourself. Is already part of the ritual. The preparation of the clay statuette, because you're not willing to kill the poor cat, must be done as that is part of the ritual. It's not like you turn on the TV and while you're crafting things, and otherwise we can easily do that together. I mean, you put some clay, you talk, and in the meantime, you prepare the statue, and then you put I don't know, sometimes you have to insert some sort of, piece of paper with strings of name, etc. You close it, it's done. You need to pay attention to that creation. It's part of the ritual. Usually, I really cast my circle. I focus myself. I do exactly the same things I do for a normal ritual. It's just preparation, but it's a way to tell you that, to tell the entities that what I'm doing is already sacred, that every single step is done with that in mind. So also my time is different. My effort is different. Then obviously, if it's just, you know, this, you don't need to be so careful. But this is something you are wearing as a protection, and it takes literally 5 minutes to do it. Then, obviously, if you're changing a sacrifice, that is a complete different matter. So this is why it's important to understand what you are dealing with, what you are doing. Okay, I don't think there are, okay, sometimes sacrifices aren't physical. You can sacrifice your time for the goddess in the form of volunteer work in her name. Yeah, that may work, especially if you are doing some spells with gods you already know. Like Hekate, I find that she is really welcoming, talking about the sacrifice of your time, or something you can do in, in her name. But I still think that in the context of this kind of magic is important that in the moment when you are doing the spell, you have something apart from the offerings of the time and maybe the volunteering activity and all the good things you can do. If in the spell there is a sacrifice involved, I would bring something.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, because it's part of the spell, the act of giving. So it has to be within the context of the spell, in my opinion.
Yeah, in my opinion too. I mean, I think that in general, when you are dealing with a PGM and you want to perform, to cast a new spell, maybe with a god you do not know, it's really important to dedicate time to that god before, if you can, if you have the time. Maybe it's a god involving, I don't know, Saturn. And you barely acknowledge Saturn because you know who he is, but you do not walk with him. You don't pray to him. While you are preparing the famous material that requires time, maybe a little contact with the deity in the days before, in time, really in terms of time, like you are dedicating to that god a little time. And time is also about learning more, learning the mythology. That is very helpful. But in the moment when you are in the spell, you really need to have at least the gesture of the offering. I agree with Giovanna. It's part of the ritual. It's part of the moment. And it's a part also of the contract. Well, I think that, are there any other questions? Okay, then I think something else, some one of you like Joe or Cece want to tell to everyone now or in the next days, the one who are gonna watch the recording? No, I think that we cover a lot. We gave a lot of, hint and suggestion and advice to everyone. I will, that is very important. I will prepare the famous PDF that's going to be on the forum of the Covenant of Hekate, available for everyone in a couple of days, just a time to put all the different spells together. And anyway, if any kind of question arises in the next days, you can always write them underneath the video that will be published, I think, in a couple of days as well. And thank you. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you, Joe, for the help. And thank you, Stacey, for the demonstration with the strophalos. And thank you all who stayed with us. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Sara. This was awesome.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you. Good
Thank
night.
you.